This year, my goal is to juggle one more ball, one more club, and one more ring than I've ever juggled before. That's 10 rings, 12 balls, 8 clubs. It's the Flash 30 project. It's a personal improvement project where I try and, just get better at numbers juggling. Part of that is just training more, getting fitter, trying to get myself back to the fitness level that I was when the previous time I got to my highest records with numbers juggling, which is like literally 20 years ago. So that's working. But also, I'm trying to rethink juggling club design, juggling ring holster design, ball technique, ball design, and go back to the first principles and try and work out how to think my way into more numbers juggling success rather than just training my way into. I'm doing both, like I say. But this video is one of the deep dive videos, a series of videos I'm doing looking into the science, technology, design, mathematics, and history of juggling props and why they are used and what technique is being used with those juggling props. And this is just kind of like I'm just set my webcam off here and I'm recording this, so there's no editing for this one. So if there's any noise and any the windows are going around a bit, don't worry about it. Let's just get through this. So I'm going to talk a little bit at the end, I guess, of this video about how I made the club lighter. And you may think a light club is going to help with numbers juggling, and that is true. A light club will. I did a whole other deep dive talking about the juggling rocket launch equations, and that's even more than just with balls, because balls you're just accelerating up and down when you throw them, but clubs and rings, as you swing them up and down, there's also this like rotational energy, this mass that's twisting in this way that you need to stop, reverse, twist in that way to bring down and bring it up. I'm not going to get into the lightness of the clubs that much, although I'll touch on it in the end. But what I want to talk about is the design of the clubs and why traditional clubs look like this. And the reason they look like this, again, they started off as club swinging clubs made out like carved out of wood, and then they tried to make them hollow, and people made them out of like bamboo or reeds or what basket style weaving. And then plastic came along, and you're like, yes, plastic's what we want. And these handles got more flexible, but the overall shape has kind of like become this way and stays this way because this is actually a really, really good shape for expressive juggling, first with club swinging and then with 3, 4, 5 clubs. So if you want a club which is perfect for expressive, beautiful, flowing juggling, creative tricks and everything with 3 to 5 clubs, this is perfect. I'm not trying to improve on this shape of club, PX3 play, or the Henry's pirouette, or the Renegade clubs. I've got one here from 25 years ago whenever I bought this as well, the 85 millimeter clubs. This is perfect for that. But there's other considerations that you need to think about, or there are other considerations when it comes to holding lots of clubs in one hand and throwing lots of clubs in one hand. One thing I want to talk about first of all is the ergonomics of juggling clubs, traditional juggling clubs. If you've ever, you think this is the handle, but the handle's too big because you only have hold club in one hand at any one time, which seems really obvious. But if you ever give a club to someone who's never juggled clubs before and say, hold it by the handle, typically they'll just hold it down at the bottom end of the handle here, or this end of the handle. And then you say, no, hold it in the right place in the handle. And then you've got to explain that the right place for like learning 3-club juggling isn't this end of the handle. And it's not at this point of the handle. It's actually kind of like here, like like 2/3 of the way along the handle. And people, well, why then? It's like, well, just go with it. That's pretty much where you want to hold the club to throw and catch. It gives you the most control over the rotation. So weirdly, there's no one place to hold the club, which is, again, fantastic if you want to do expressive juggling, because sometimes you want to hold a club down here. And for another trick, you're going to be there, and another trick, you're going to be there. Some tricks are going to be here. Other tricks, you're going to hold it this way round. And again, the club has just developed into the perfect handle shape for it. And also for passing and things like back crosses, you actually want there to not be one place to hold on the handle. When I do 5-club back crosses, I catch it here, and then as I'm doing the swing around, it comes over. Oh, the microphone's getting in the way. I swing it, and it kind of slips down out of my fingers, and the knob here stops it going any further. You do the same kind of thing, or some people do the same kind of thing, depending on the technique when you're passing. You catch the club, it comes around here, you swing it down, it swings, it kind of swings down, stops here, and then you throw it, and it keeps going again. Maybe I should have demonstrated this way without the microphone in the way. So you swing it, and as you swing it down, it slides forwards. All of these things are fantastic if you want to do expressive juggling with 3 to 5 clubs. That you know just where, just by closing your eyes, when you catch it, you know where you are on the handle. It's fantastic. You catch it here, your hand can easily slip down to here, can slip down to there, depending on what it is. Club juggling, numbers juggling, though, you've got this other consideration, not just the weight of the club, but this handle suddenly means that if you're swinging it down, the club wants to go this way. Like there's always this pressure that you're working against with numbers juggling, which is you want to hold the club in the middle of the club and you want to swing it up and down really quick. Like when you're launching 4 clubs from one hand, your hand's going up and down. A lot of the energy that you're trying to work on against the forces that you're trying to work against is the clubs slipping out this way. And the clubs are designed to do that. Like when you're doing back crosses, you want the club to slide out this way. It's what you want. But in numbers juggling, you don't want it to slide out that way, which means anytime that you're trying to stop something happening, you're putting in energy. So that's one of the things that I wanted to solve with this. I wanted to solve the ergonomics problems, like there should be only one place on the club where your hand will fit naturally. Again, you don't want that for expressive club juggling, but for numbers juggling, you actually just want your hand to be in one place and you don't want it to move out from there as well. So that's what I'm talking about, ergonomics. A place for your hand to be, which is natural for your hand to be, and it doesn't move. The other thing that I wanted to do with numbers juggling is just being able to hold more clubs in the hand more easily. One way to do that, of course, is just to make the handle a lot thinner. And you can just demonstrate that with normal clubs. If you hold the handles all the way down here, it's thin. Okay, great. Let me. Do I have another club? Yeah, I've got another PX3 club here as well. Can easily hold 4 clubs. Just my hand just fits around, no problem at all. Could keep going. Maybe just here is the best place. Feels really natural. That's not the place that you want to be holding clubs if you're doing numbers juggling and trying to swing these clubs up and down. Don't like that at all. You want to hold it here. It's too wide. So that's another thing. Just obvious thing of like thinner handles means easier to hold more of them in the handle. There is another consideration, which I'll get to after my drink, is that you don't just want them to not slip in this direction, and you don't just want them to hold more of them. You actually don't want them to twist on each other. Now, here's the problem with PX3s and all traditional handles. If I have the clubs touching each other at this point here, like that, and they're also touching each other at a point in the handle, there's this gap in the middle. Can you see me through? I'm looking at my camera there. Gap in them. Don't want that gap. But then if you hold them so they're touching each other at this point and at this point, and you hold them, there's no gap in the middle there, but there is a gap like over here. This gap gets bigger. So there's always this point where there's a gap. Now the gap can be in the middle, or the gap can be over here. Or if you hold the handles together here, there wants to be a gap here if you hold them there, but the physics doesn't work out. The force is when you squeeze them together. And what you're actually doing now is by squeezing the club. I will now demonstrate a lot more blatantly. So if you have them, and that it naturally wants to touch at this point and this point, but PX3 clubs are flexible, and the handles themselves are flexible. They have flexibility in them, compliance in them. That if you then squeeze them together, you can actually get them to touch at this point and at this point and at that point. And weirdly enough, that's the point where they would lock together if they were shaped that way. There's 3 points on a straight line, and that's kind of what you want. And when you're actually gripping clubs for doing numbers juggling, that's kind of what you're forcing them into, even though the clubs don't want to be in that shape and they don't want to lock together in that way. By squeezing them here, they're twisting in this way, but you don't want them to twist that way. So you're actually squeezing them so much that the handles deform and the clubs deform, so they lock together in a way. And that takes a huge amount of energy to hold even 2 clubs together, that when you waggle them, they don't move at all. And first of all, they don't have a gap in the wrong place, and they don't move. So if you just hold 2 clubs together like this, and let me just demonstrate. So I'm just going to hold them together that way, and I'm going to wiggle them around. Straight away, this one wants to twist on it, because again, it's only touching itself in one point there. The clubs only touch at one point. And then the only thing that stops it going in this direction is the clubs bumping against each other. But then there's nothing at this end which stops the clubs swinging in that way. So at all times, when you've got 2 clubs or 2 or more clubs in your hand and you're swinging them up and down, you're using energy, first of all, to move them up and down, using energy to twist them this way and twist them that way, like rotate them this way, rotate them that way. You're also using energy to stop them slipping forwards, because there's friction, but that friction will need some grip. But also you're trying to stop them twisting on each other, like rotating in relation to each other. And that's because, again, they're only touching at one point. And if they're touching at one point, naturally there's only one other point which will block them from moving. Same with 3 clubs as well. So if I squeeze all them together here, so they're touching at this point and at this point, there's this big gap in the middle. You can see, because you can see me through the gap. You can see my eye through the gap here. You don't want that gap. And when you're holding 3 clubs, this bit down here, these are all like splaying apart. There's nothing to stop them. If you squeeze the clubs, there's nothing to stop these clubs like coming out. There's nothing to stop this motion. And then you get up to 4 clubs, and if you just hold all 4 clubs there, they start twisting like this, and then you're swinging this up and down, and no matter what you do, it's almost impossible to stop this last club twisting against them, because now it's actually touching 2 parts of the club. It's touching this club here and this club here, but it's kind of wanting to rotate. Now you've kind of given it a nice thing. It doesn't rotate this way anymore, but it does rotate this way. Oh, the windows are open, the doors are going around. So this is what you're wanting to do. So if I've got 4 clubs in my hand, just shaking them a bit already makes this obnoxious tapping noise, because it takes me energy to squeeze them so they don't tap together. And that is the energy that I didn't want to put into learning 7 clubs, because I had to learn 4 clubs in one hand, and 3 clubs in one hand is really great because, you know, these clubs are light enough and flexible enough that you can just grip this club here and you have full control over that club, this one here, the 3rd club here. You grip the first 2, full control over them, and this one, it's perfectly good enough. Your hands are big enough to get around, and it doesn't take too much energy. Even though this wiggles around, if you're just launching the first club, it doesn't matter. But as soon as you're trying to do that with the 4th club in the hand, oh my goodness, this noise means, any waggling noise like that means energy is taken up. So what I wanted to do is design, or to find a shape, a handle shape, which does all of these. Ergonomics, stops the club slipping out, stops the club rotating, and is kind of like, thinner as well. And so once I got myself a 3D printer, I printed out these little shapes here. And I was like, oh, it's working. And then I printed out the same shape in the full 1-to-1 scale to work out if the shape is correct. So now let me just bring up the video here as well. So the shape that I want to talk about here is the hyperboloid, and these are used in architecture and other things, because what you actually have is these towers which can be built out of circles. There's like circles that go this way and circles down the run that go this way, and there's circles all the way up. Maybe can I find another one? Yeah. So here's a better thing as well. So you can see these circles all the way around, and that's great because clubs have got a circular cross section. But also there's these long straight things, and what you actually have is every single one of these straight lines is perfectly straight. If you actually look at it here as well, this is like from Wikipedia page, it's a representation that you've got a circle and then you've got another circle at the bottom, and there's 2 different lines that go between them. And this means that you have this hyperboloid structure, which you'll know from like these cooling towers as well, but like from these lighthouses, which it looks like a curved handle. And I'm like, oh, that looks really ergonomic, this Canton tower. It's all the same kind of thing. It's this hyperboloid, okay? Wikipedia says hyperboloid is yes, it's this thing which it's curved in 2 directions. And here's the thing. Let me bring back OBS and let's go back here as well. Curving in 2 directions is something that isn't possible with traditional juggling club construction. This is an old handle from a very dirty PX3 club, because it's made out of it's constructed out of something which is great because it's got this shell, it's self-supporting. You know, just a cone, a section of a cone or a cylinder is really, really strong, made out of things like this. But because it's made out of wrapped plastic, it can literally only curve in one direction. It can either curve this way or it can curve this way, but it can't curve both. It's just part of the traditional juggling club thing. So yes, it can curve on its like this, it can curve this way or it can curve that way, but it can't curve both. And if it does curve both, like one part of it is curved like here and another part is curved like here at 90 degrees, it means you've always got like this flat part or this twist or these jaggedy bits here as well. Again, it's just part of the historic construction, which is great because this is cheap, it's easy, it's flexible. And modern club designs which no longer use this, which have like a full molded handle like the PX4s, they've just kept this shape. Sometimes even they actually do a 3D mold of the join of the wrapped handle to give it the same kind of feel. But that's what you want. It is what you want, but it does mean that the shape of the handle is really constrained by being wrapped plastic, and that like a plastic sheet can only bend in one curvature at once. So yeah, if you look at old-timey clubs or clubs that are molded out of something which is solid, like wood or foam or something like that, it means the handle can be any shape you want. And that's what you have with 3D printing. So because I'm 3D printing, I can have things that curve in 2 directions because I want it to be ergonomic. And this Hyperboloid curves in 2 directions. It's literally what makes it, if you look at what is it? I think there's a picture here as well. Yeah, stackable Pringles curved in 2 directions. And that's kind of what, I was going to say you can't actually see that unless I do this. No, where is it? Here. It can curve in 2 different directions, and that's what I want. I want it to curve in 2 different directions. So I 3D printed out this Hyperboloid section here, and I was like, that's what I want. So, and I was testing it. I was like, yes, it's working. Look, these 2 circles here are touching each other, and the 2 circles at this end are touching each other. And more importantly, at every point along the way, they are touching each other. And because this is the point along the middle. And they're all just circles. And like I say, let's go over to this. Where's this Hyperboloid thing as well? Let's click here. If you actually look at this point, it doesn't just work in one direction. The blue line is a straight line, but also the red line is a straight line. So that's the blue line, and now here is the red line. It works in both ways. It's here. And it's there. So it looks like this top section where it's like curved this way and curved this way. So it curves in a circle, and it curves here. But if you look at it another way, it's a straight line. It's a circle with a straight line between it and another straight line. So it's straight lines in 2 directions and, it's straight lines in 2 directions and it's curved in 2 directions. So you get curves in 2 directions, straight lines in 2 directions. And that is what we want. So, and because circles don't just go like this. When you put 3 circles together, they want to form a triangle. Any 3 points forms a triangle. You get 3 points together and you're like, yes, they are touching each other, and they are touching each other at the other end, and all the way along they're touching each other. And if you hold them in the other hand, they're all touching each other. They lock together here, and you twist them around, they lock together there, and they're locked together no matter where you hold it. So if I squeeze them together at this end, they don't change position, they're locked together. And if I squeeze them together at this end, they're locked together. Let me demonstrate that with something a little bit bigger. So here's a bigger version as well, which now includes like the cone of the club going up here. And let me find a club that I can show this against. So if you hold, this is slightly different because this handle is broken and wrapped up again. But if they hold together there, and the widest point or the last point they're going to touch each other here as well, they're locked together there. They are touching all the way down. There is not a point. You know what I said before when I was squeezing here and squeezing there? I can't look, but there's no gap to look between on this one as well. Same. Let's get up to 3 of these clubs as well, and this profile as well. So I'm gripping it really strong here. At the point where all 3 clubs touch, they're touching. Down at the point where where the clubs leave again, they're all touching. And at every other point along the way, they're touching. So let me just demonstrate how this works with the final clubs. Is that if I grip the clubs really strongly here, they're locked in place. They don't move. They don't twist. And none of them want to twist on the other ones. And if I hold them here at the top end of the handle, exactly the same. It doesn't matter where I'm holding, they all lock together in exactly the same way. As long as the force is going at anywhere along the Hyperboloid, where with these PX3 club bodies, which I ended up using, it's pretty much exactly with the fully 3D printed ones. It's only slightly off because the cone that starts here can just transition into the Hyperboloid and it works no problem at all. So here we go. So if I hold it here, it doesn't matter how lightly I hold it. If I swing it up and down, can you hear the clubs bumping against each other? I'm hardly putting any effort into that. No. Listen to that. And if I hold them in a slightly different place, listen. No. I'm putting in no effort to keep them locked together in any way. Here, well, there it is a bit because the tape is a little bit wider and it doesn't work exactly. But really, listen. No. Here. And all I'm doing is holding them together. I'm not squeezing them together. Next thing about the good thing about this is that because it flares out again, it doesn't slip forwards. If I catch the club, swing it down, I can hold it really, really loosely, and as long as it gets down to here, it doesn't want to slip out that way, and that's one of the most important things. So, yeah, have I just explained it all? I'm not quite sure. Yeah, so I hold 3 clubs here like this, and I put a 4th one in as well. These ones lock together into a triangle and are perfectly good. The last club that I normally put in the hand when I've been practicing with 4 clubs in one hand, this one doesn't go in to make into some kind of 4-sided shape or parallelogram. I actually bring it off a bit here. And then if I twist it this way, it stops rotating that way. And so it takes almost nothing. Like here, just nothing. Just no effort at all to hold all 3 clubs so that they're not rattling and bumping into each other. I can just swing up and down. I let go of the first one, second, third, fourth, and they all just, now, when I catch them all, completely lock together. Like I need to put no effort in to holding them in place at all as well. Now, same thing with the left hand. I have 3 in together and then 1 more off on itself. Just flip it over. Yeah. This is like the most satisfying thing to catch ever. Again, the catching is only part of it. The other thing that I did first of all was with the first profile is that I was like, oh, it comes up here, and then I can smooth it so it can like be a smooth curve once it's out of the hyperboloid section. This club doesn't have, this one doesn't have a carbon core through the middle of it, no dowel, and this one's just a bit flexible. But it comes up here, and I was like, oh, I can make it so it's smooth over there as well. But it turns out that doesn't work because all I'm doing is recreating a thick part of the club. This is just another thick part of the club, which is difficult to hold on to so many of them. So then I just transition into the normal handle profile. This is a 3D print of like a typical PX3 handle profile. So at the top, it's the same, and down at the bottom, like at this point, it's exactly the same dimensions. And from like this section here, it's the same dimensions down to the knob. It just continues the line of the club down into a hyperboloid and back out again. Another thing that happens is because the hyperboloid is symmetrical either end as well. If you hold 2 clubs together, they lock together like this as well, which is again not very handy, but maybe helpful for numbers juggling and catching. Another quick drink. So what have we got here? Yes, the lines all curve in 2 ways. Yeah, no need to squeeze them as well. So let's get back now to a demonstration of how many clubs I can fit in my left hand when holding 2 PX3 clubs. So 2 PX3 clubs in the place that I want to hold them when I'm doing numbers juggling. I can just about touch my 2 fingers together if I will hold them there. If I hold them this way, yes, 2 fingers. So here we go. I can get around to 2 fingers here. Now, here's 1 club, another hyperboloid club, another hyperboloid club, another hyperboloid club. Now I'm going to go down to here as well. Another hyperboloid club. So here we go. With the clubs that I have here, PX3s, holding them in the same place on the handle, I can hold 2 and link my fingers together, index fingers at the other end. Here, 5 clubs. We're literally at a 2-to-5 ratio of what can fit, because these clubs, the hyperboloid clubs, nest together. And also, don't need any energy to stop them wobbling around. So if I do the same thing here with these 2 clubs, bumpy, 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 and these 5 clubs, nah, just locked together. It's fantastic energy saver. And yeah, just being able to hold more than that. I gave them to Juliana and she's like, oh, if I had clubs with the handles this small, I'd have enjoyed launching 2 clubs and, you know, I'd have enjoyed club juggling more. I don't think she would have because I think the shape of this isn't good for learning. But yeah, thinner handles would be really nice for people with smaller hands just to be able to launch, like to just be able to get into it. I think the thinner these handles, actually, the more painful it gets because they're like the force is coming down onto a smaller and smaller area. So there is a little bit of that when with the numbers juggling, that if you catch the fast spinning clubs right here, they do put a bit more force into a smaller area. The bigger club spreads out that force, and that is noticeable that when you're catching these clubs, the force is kind of spread out across the inside of the knuckles and fingers. And here it's not. But it's that's just part of numbers juggling, that there's going to be more force coming down into your hands and into your fingers. What else do I want to say? Yeah, no, I think that's about it. It's like I've been talking about 25 minutes about this. So yeah, the construction. Yes, this is lightweight construction. Normally, these I've got a set of scales here that I thought I'd use. So here we go. The first clubs that I used for juggling 7 clubs are the Renegade 85 centimeters, but the dowel was broke. This is what's that? 244 grams, because the dowel would break and then I'd replace it and it would break again. So in the end, I just use like stronger and stronger, harder wood, like so hard wood dowels just to stop them breaking a lot. So yes, quite heavy. That's what was that? 244. A normal PX3 club. Let's check it out. That's like 200, 220. So this is already like 22 grams less. This one's 22 grams less than this. And now my current versions of the Hyperboloid clubs are 150. This one says 158, and some of them are about 160 because, again, just the different amount of tape that's on the handles and things like that. So yeah, it's super light. Only part of that is because of the 3D printed handles. Like this is actually quite a light construction, but this needs support at both ends. It needs support here and it needs support at that end. So what you end up with is the core of the PX3 club, which is like a plastic dowel with a bracket here, and a bracket in the middle, which is then like stapled together, weighs 90 grams to support the club. It's nice and flexible, that's good. But these clubs use carbon dowels as well, so much thinner, much lighter. This with the bits in the end, 22 grams. So about 20 grams each, and then there's these plugs which are glued in the bottom, which hold these little nuts. So when you screw things in, it gives a bit of guidance and locks into the end of the clubs here as well. So yeah, going from 90 grams worth of structure to 22 grams of structure, that's most of the saving right there. The other good thing about having a 3D printed club is that I demonstrated in a video a few days ago that you can swap out the different clubs. So because it's just a carbon core, the club is printed out of flexible material with a thin layer and this kind of like gyroid shape, like infill, but only like I think it's like 11% infill with this TPU, which makes it actually quite flexible, kind of like squishy, but it supports itself across the whole level. So the club handles of these 3D printed club handles that I'm using aren't just being supported at this end and this end and just like freely wiggling around in the middle. Do I have? Oh yeah. So here's just the handle here as well. So the PX3 handle, you squeeze it down, and then it just, once you get squeezed in enough, you just hit the handle. And that's actually where the control comes from when you're actually doing some numbers juggling. You just squeeze so hard enough that you're no longer squeezing the handle. You're pretty much just squeezing onto the thinner part of the dowel, which is good. But like, why isn't it just that? Like, why are you forcing me to squeeze these clubs so hard that you get down to like the bit which actually gives you support that you need for numbers juggling? Why not just bring it down to that thickness? Of course, that's then two things. You do need some control, because if you're just throwing sticks, you actually don't have a lot of like control over just sticks. You get back to that, they're waggling around in the hand again, and you need one stick between each thing, and you don't have the same control just because they're so thin at that point. So you need some thickness. That's with the Hyperboloid. You need some thickness, but you don't want there to be no shape, because shape gives you control. Ergonomics gives you control, and then the Hyperboloid shape, because it can touch at any other, these three clubs touch each other, it doesn't slip forward. I think I'm just repeating myself now. I think I'm gonna wrap up this live stream. Yeah, let's see if I can finish this in 30 minutes. How long have I gone? 28 minutes. Thank you very much for watching this deep dive. I hope I've fully explained why the Hyperboloid club handle profile is what I'm going with. It's a great success. Really enjoyed juggling with it. I was going to say, I'll show you some videos now, but I'm not editing this. So follow me on Instagram to see my exploits with the Hyperboloid clubs. And and it's great that I can swap the handles over. I'm going to go juggling tonight in a place where I'm not doing numbers juggling. So I'm going to swap the handles over so I can I can work on some like 3 club tricks and back crosses with the normal handle profile, which is this profile, and not the Hyperboloid. But this is working out really well for numbers juggling. Thin, doesn't slip this way. The clubs lock together, and because it's like a good shape. Good shape that the clubs lock together. And again, my adventures in 3D printing, I might do a whole other deep dive video about that, but that's not this one. It turns out I could 3D print club bodies which were good enough, but in the end, this profile is so close to the PX3 club body that I just thought I'll just use the PX3 club body instead of trying to do it fully 3D printed myself. which was a good decision. Thanks a lot for watching. You can follow me Instagram and other places. Oh, like and subscribe. And also please go over to patreon.com/Luke Burridge to support me financially in this project, in all my other juggling projects and all the video projects like the Top 40 Jugglers, with Fight Night Combat, all of that kind of stuff would be a fantastic help if you go to patreon.com/Luke Burridge. And thank you to all my Patreon supporters. But this is not being edited, so there's not going to be any end credits playing now. I'm just going to press stop in OBS. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next deep dive video.